The crowd fell silent. The garage doors rose, revealing $10 million worth of supercars that the HOA was about to bulldoze. Journalists started filming, neighbors gasped, and the HOA members' faces turned pale. But when I held up one document, they realized they had just destroyed their own lives. But let's start from the beginning. At one point, I really thought I was living in the perfect neighborhood. Spacious, classic-style homes, neatly trimmed green lawns, weekend BBQs with the neighbors. It was the American dream. Of course, I knew there was an HOA, Homeowners Association, here, but I never gave it much thought, until it was too late. My name is Jack Collins, and I'm not some Wall Street billionaire who buys toys just for status. I'm a collector, a restorer, and a die-hard supercar enthusiast. The cars in my garage were more than just machines to me. They were my passion. Ferrari F40, the gem of the 80s, a motorsport legend. McLaren P1, the hypercar that changed the game. Bugatti Chiron, a symbol of insane power. Lamborghini Miura, one of the rarest and most beautiful cars in the world. Total value, $10 million. Then, on an otherwise ordinary morning, I checked my mail, and my peace was shattered. HOA notice. Your garage does not comply with the community's architectural guidelines. You must demolish it within 30 days. What? I reread it 10 times before it finally sank in. This wasn't a mistake, a joke, or a misunderstanding. It was a real order to tear down my garage. First thought, this is complete bullshit. Second thought, these idiots must have the wrong address. But, as it turned out, they were absolutely serious. Uninvited guests. A few days later, there was a loud knock on my door. When I opened it, I found 3 HOA representatives standing on my porch, looking at me like I had already been sentenced to death. Margaret Winslow, a 60-year-old witch with ice-cold eyes and a fake smile that looked more like a snarl. Her pearl necklace seemed to choke her, but she clearly refused to take it off. Tom Bailey, a former real estate agent who still hadn't come to terms with the fact that no one asked for his advice anymore. Gray-haired, expensive suit, and a face that screamed, "I'm better than you, and you know it." Linda Carmichael, a blonde with a perpetually irritated expression that said, "I don't care about your life, but I'm going to ruin it anyway." I knew right then, shit was about to go down. Margaret spoke first, her voice as sour as if she had just swallowed a lemon. "Mr. Collins, you received the notice, correct?" I crossed my arms and narrowed my eyes. "Oh, I definitely did." She nodded, like I had just confessed to a crime. "Then you understand that your garage does not comply with regulations. It must be demolished within 30 days. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because if I didn't laugh, I would probably explode with rage. "Let me get this straight. You're talking about the garage that meets all building codes, is 100% safe, and houses my $10 million supercar collection?" "Yes," Linda replied coldly, annoyed that I wasn't panicking yet. I shook my head. "And you seriously think I'm just going to let you do that?" Tom stepped forward and let out a dramatic sigh, like he was exhausted from dealing with someone as stupid as me. "Mr. Collins, you signed the HOA agreement when you bought the house. We have the right to enforce compliance, and if you don't follow the order, we will file a complaint with the city council and obtain a court order." Ah, so that's how it was. They had already decided my garage was doomed, without even bothering to find out what was inside. They didn't care about my property, my rights, or my money. All they wanted was to put me in my place and show me who was in charge. I felt my anger boil over. Margaret rolled the pearls between her fingers and studied me with a calculating look. "We'd prefer to handle this amicably, but if you refuse to follow the rules..." She didn't finish the sentence. but I knew exactly what she meant. "We'll destroy your life." I took a step closer, looking her dead in the eye. "You have no idea who you're messing with." And you know what? They really didn't. I've always considered myself a reasonable person. If there's a conflict, it can be resolved legally. No drama, no chaos. I had no intention of starting a fight with the HOA, but the war had already begun. First, I called a real estate attorney to see if the HOA had any legal grounds for their demands. The answer was simple. My garage didn't violate any building codes. "This isn't a legal issue," my lawyer said. "It's bureaucratic overreach." Great. I was facing the worst kind of enemy, a system that didn't operate on laws but on the whims of those in power. The HOA went into full attack mode. They started fining me $500 a day for non-compliance. They filed a complaint with the city, claiming my garage disrupted the neighborhood's architectural style. They played legal games, constantly changing the wording of my violations. When I sent a formal request, asking for a clear explanation of the non-compliance, their response was vague. "Your garage does not fit the overall aesthetic of the neighborhood and disrupts the harmony of the surrounding environment." What the hell does disrupts the harmony even mean? Where's the law? Where's the logic? But that was just the beginning. A divided community. The worst part wasn't that. 3 HOA bureaucrats were trying to tear down my garage. The worst part was that my neighbors started believing them. I noticed the sideways glances. The people I said good morning to every day stopped responding. Some even avoided eye contact altogether. Then the rumors started. "He's a billionaire, why can't he just build a new garage? It's not fair. Why is his garage bigger than everyone else's? He probably ignored all the rules, and now he's paying the price." The HOA had convinced people that I was just some rich asshole who thought he was above the rules. They didn't know that my garage wasn't just a building. It was my life's work, my passion, my dream. But who cared about that? The first strike. One morning, I walked outside and saw workers. They were marking my property for demolition. Red lines on the pavement, markings on the walls. My stomach dropped. I rushed over. "What the hell are you doing?" The foreman, a massive guy in a hard hat, didn't even look at me. "Preliminary demolition order. They said the structure is unauthorized." "Preliminary? Do you even know what's inside?" He shrugged. "We get paid. We demolish. If you have a problem, talk to the HOA." And that's when something snapped inside me. They were going to tear down my garage without even waiting for a court order. If I didn't stop them now, my collection would be under a bulldozer in a week. I knew one thing for sure. If I didn't take a stand, I was about to lose everything. They wanted to demolish my garage? Fine. I wasn't just going to sit back and let these bureaucratic bastards bulldoze my life. They thought I was just another victim of their power. They were wrong. I had a plan. If they wanted a war, I was going to make sure this battle made national headlines. Step 1. The Independent Appraiser. First, I hired a licensed structural expert who confirmed that my garage was 100% compliant with all zoning and building codes. I didn't just get his report. I sent it directly to the city council and the HOA's legal department. Now, they had no legal grounds to demolish it. But I knew that wouldn't stop them. That's why the next step was critical. Step 2. The media and public exposure. If there's one thing HOAs fear more than anything, it's bad publicity. They thrive in the shadows, using fines, threats, and vague regulations to bully homeowners. But what happens when their corruption is exposed to the entire country? I reached out to several journalists who had covered HOA abuses before and sent them everything. Documents proving my garage was legal, a list of every absurd fine and sanction they had hit me with, and of course the story of 3 HOA board members trying to bulldoze a $10 million supercar collection because they didn't like how it looked. Reporters love stories like this. The next day, news cameras showed up in my neighborhood. But I wasn't done yet. Step 3. Preparing for the show. I installed security cameras all around my garage, 4 angles, microphones, a direct live feed to the internet. I wanted to make sure that when the HOA and their demolition crew arrived, it wouldn't just be a private incident. It would be the biggest viral sensation of the day. They thought they could destroy my garage quietly? I was about to turn it into a public spectacle. The showdown. HOA's Judgment Day. The next morning, they arrived. 2 bulldozers, a crew of workers, 3 HOA board members in their expensive suits, smugly confident that today they would ruin my life. I was waiting for them right in front of the garage, black leather jacket, wireless mic in hand. Journalists were already gathered, cameras rolling, ready to capture the greatest HOA showdown in history. Margaret Winslow stepped forward, her voice dripping with icy confidence. "Mr. Collins, please step aside. The demolition begins today." I smirked. "Hold on. Before you tear down this garage, I have something to show you." I pulled out a remote and pressed a button. The motors whirred. The garage doors began to rise. Silence. The crowd froze. Inside the garage sat some of the rarest and most expensive cars in the world. Ferrari, Bugatti, Lamborghini, McLaren, lined up perfectly in 2 rows, gleaming under the morning sun. Cameras snapped. Workers stopped in their tracks. Journalists gasped. Neighbors whispered in shock. Margaret's mouth opened, but no words came out. I took a step forward, my voice calm but every word hitting like a hammer. "This garage is my pride and joy. It's not just a structure. It's a private collection worth $10 million. I paused. Then I dropped the bombshell. "Now tell me, what do you think the insurance companies will say if your bulldozers damage even a single one of these cars?" Silence. Margaret swallowed hard. Journalists zoomed in. Neighbors who had once sided with the HOA began murmuring in horror. But I wasn't done yet. I raised my hand and held up one more document. "And here's the cherry on top." I turned to the reporters. "This garage has just been officially recognized as a cultural heritage site through a partnership with the Auto Museum. That means if anyone dares to tear it down, they won't just be breaking HOA rules. They'll be committing a federal crime by destroying historic property." The journalists didn't need any further explanation. The cameras turned on the HOA board. Margaret turned pale. Tom was speechless. Linda's hands shook as she fumbled with her phone. I took a step closer. "So, where are your bulldozers now?" They had no answer. I had been waiting for this moment. The morning after HOA's spectacular public failure, when their attempt to bulldoze my garage turned into a national scandal, I brewed a fresh cup of coffee, sat on my porch, and just enjoyed the moment. They messed with the wrong house. And now, they were paying the price. I checked my mail, and there it was, an envelope from the HOA. I opened it. I read it slowly, savoring every line. "Dear Mr. Collins, the HOA has reviewed its decision and concluded that your garage does not violate community regulations. All demolition orders are revoked. All issued fines have been canceled. The HOA apologizes for any inconvenience." That was sweet, but it didn't stop there. The domino effect. The story blew up nationwide. Local news and newspapers exposed the HOA's corruption. Social media erupted. The video of me opening the garage and humiliating the HOA went viral. Homeowners everywhere started fighting back against their own HOAs. And then, something I never expected happened. The fall of the HOA. Margaret, Tom, and Linda's downfall. The same neighbors who once supported the HOA suddenly turned against them. Why? Because they realized that if the HOA came for my garage today, they could come for their homes tomorrow. HOA meetings erupted in chaos. Why do we even let these people control us? I pay HOA fees every month and they're wasting it on lawsuits. We need new leadership. Within a week, Margaret, Tom, and Linda resigned. Their replacements stripped the HOA of its power. And the best part? The final blow, legal payback. They tried to demolish my garage. I sued them for property damage, emotional distress, and unlawful fines. 3 months later, the HOA lost. The court ordered them to pay $500,000. $500,000. Guess what I did with it? Expanded my garage. The endgame. A supercar museum. Now, it wasn't just a garage. It was a private supercar museum. And the HOA, they lost everything. And you know what? It was the best feeling in the world.